Nagpur is at the heart of India, quite literally, geographically. It's also home to the RSS and it's home to Devendra Fadnavis, the Chief Minister of the state of Maharashtra. So it's a really important city, but it's been in the news for the wrong reasons. Now, there's been a curfew imposed in several parts of the city this week after protests about Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. And the fact that some people wanted his tomb removed, and that led to violence in which several homes were vandalized and vehicles were torched. And the question that now arises is, why is a Mughal emperor from 300 years ago suddenly a topic of discussion, and is it about a film that was released this year? Now, let me first tell you what happened this week, right? According to the media, between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. on Monday, the 17th of March, there were people who organized a Shiv Jayanti program in front of the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj statue in the Mughal area of Nagpur. Now, around noon, about 40 to 50 workers allegedly of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad and the Bajrang Dal actually had a protest or a demonstration in which they demanded the removal of Aurangzeb's tomb from the state of Maharashtra. During this protest, now again there are media reports, and I'm quoting from India Today, they allegedly took an effigy of the Mughal emperor, set it on fire. It was covered by a sheet. There are rumors that then built into the city saying that that sheet was a religious sheet and it had some religious content on it when it was burnt. Now, in a short span of time, thousands of youths came out into the street. They started pelting stones at the police. By 7:30, the violence had escalated rapidly. Cars and bikes were set on fire. The police had to initially baton charge, but eventually they resorted to using tear gas shells to disperse the crowd. In another part of the city, in Hasnapuri, between 10:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m., a mob burnt several vehicles and vandalized several homes and a clinic in the area. Now, I'm bringing you this story a few days late because normally when there is violence, you delay the analysis so that you don't actually throw more fuel on the flames. The question to actually ask is, Aurangzeb was a Mughal emperor who died in 1707, which is exactly 318 years ago. What about his tomb is subject of question right now. So what is really going on? Could it actually be the film? Now, the answer comes from the Chief Minister himself, Devendra Fadnavis, who made a statement where he effectively attributed, this entire violence to Vicky Kaushal's Chhaava film, where he said, and I'm quoting Mr. Fadnavis here, he said, "Chhaava movie has ignited people's anger against Aurangzeb. Still, everyone must keep Maharashtra peaceful." He also went on and he was talking in the assembly and he said the violent incident and riot seems to be pre-planned. He said specific houses and establishments were targeted by the mob and it all looked like a conspiracy. Now, let me quickly tell you what that film was about if you haven't seen it already. Now, the film actually portrays the heroic resistance of Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj, who's Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's son, against Aurangzeb. The film has been extremely popular. It's among a relatively high grosser, among the highest grossers in terms of the box office. And particularly in Maharashtra, it has sort of reinforced historical grievances against Aurangzeb. There's also a very long, very detailed portrayal of torture in the film, depicting Aurangzeb's cruelty when he was attempting to torture Sambhaji Maharaj into forcibly converting and finally ordering his execution. Now, it's this particular elongated scene that has really angered a lot of viewers and sort of brought out a lot of emotion. Hindu nationalist groups have found a renewed justification for their demand that Aurangzeb's tomb should not be allowed to stand anymore, it should be demolished. Now, the side question that we have to ask is, do films influence behavior enough for it to start violence in cities? Now, let's see the reaction to this particular film. We've seen reports that apparently residents in Madhya Pradesh, after they saw the film in which there is a scene in which some treasure is buried at the Asigad fort, they actually left from the theatre and went to the fort with their torches of their mobile phones, actually looking for the treasure from 300 years ago. There was another very interesting incident to portray whether or not the film is completely historically accurate. The descendants of the Shirke family actually have threatened a 100 crore defamation suit against the makers of Chhaava, where they say that the movie portrays their ancestors, Ganoji and Kanoji Shirke, as traitors which is a distortion of historical facts. Now, in response to that accusation, the director, Lakshman Utekar, has apologized. He said the film had intentionally omitted surnames and village names, and he expressed regret for any discomfort. Now, it's obvious also if you watch the film that's a fair amount of cinematic license has been taken, in the sense that the manner in which Vicky Kaushal is fighting is, no human can now or 300 years ago, have leaped to those bounds. So cinematic license is normal, and it's also obvious in this case that it does, ring up a lot of emotion. We've seen videos of people standing in the theatre, actually, shouting slogans, feeling very emotional, bathing the posters with milk. Various members of our political classes have also said that this is an excellent film. It actually sets right a lot of facts, and there's a grey area there about how historically accurate is it, and whether we should be taking it as a historic documentary, or is it a film that you should enjoy and come out of the theatre. Now, I'm going to take another quick detour to give you context to the tomb, right? Can the Maharashtra government actually knock it off or not? Aurangzeb died, like I told you, in 1707 and near Ahmednagar in Maharashtra, because, and you'll ask why, because wasn't Delhi the seat of power? He was 88 years old, but unlike his predecessors, he spent most of his last years fighting the Marathas in the Deccan region, which is why he was here. Now, before his death, Aurangzeb expressed his wish to be buried in Kuldabad near Maharashtra, which near the dargah of the Sufi saint Sheikh Zainuddin, who he admired greatly and considered to be his guiding force. Now, unlike the very grand tombs of Akbar and Humayun, Aurangzeb asked for a very simple and unembellished tomb, I beg your pardon, as per his own instructions. Now, Kuldabad is a very small area in Maharashtra. It's in Aurangabad district. It's known as the Valley of Saints because in the 14th century, several Sufi saints used to live here. It's very close to the Ellora caves also. The interesting thing about this is that tomb as of today stands under ASI protection because it's historical and it has cultural significance, because he was the 6th Mughal emperor and his reign was considered an important, significant part of Indian history. His tomb is a reminder of the Mughal era and the impact on India. So the Maharashtra government technically cannot denotify the tomb. The monument is being treated as a monument of national importance by the ASI. So the power to delist it actually lies with the central government under the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites of India. Now, cut back to modern day, right? After this film was released, centuries later, his tomb has become part of a political issue. Protests have intensified. Many groups are arguing that the Maharashtra government should not preserve the tomb of a ruler, but like I've told you, Maharashtra government does not have the ability to make that decision. Bajrang Dal activists in Kolhapur have staged a demonstration recently and with hammers, symbolically saying that they're going to smash the tomb. VHP and Bajrang Dal have demanded the removal of the tomb, warning a Babri-like repeat that they will take the tomb down themselves if the government doesn't do it already. The other thing that happened is on the 7th of March, in reaction to the film that was released, Samajwadi Party MP from Maharashtra, Abu Azmi, actually spoke in the assembly, and he said that he said that this political storm has come out of a film that misrepresents historic events. Azmi emphasized Aurangzeb was a good administrator and India's borders reached Afghanistan and Burma when he was in charge. He said, and I'm quoting here, "Wrong history is being shown in Chhaava. Aurangzeb built several temples. I do not think he was a cruel administrator." He went on to claim that India was referred to as a Sone ki Chiriya during Aurangzeb's tenure, and the GDP was 24% of the world's GDP during that tenure. And there was a lot of pushback after that statement was made. As one could assume, all television channels were discussing something that happened 300 years ago instead of something that's happening today. Monday this week, in fact, the Chief Minister, Devendra Fadnavis, before the violence started, actually said that it was unfortunate that Maharashtra had to protect and care for this tomb of someone who had killed thousands of people. And I'm quoting Mr. Fadnavis here, where he said, "It is protected by the ASI, so we have to abide by the law. However, I will assure you that only Shivaji Maharaj will be glorified, and I will not allow the glorification of Aurangzeb, end quote. So there are a lot of demands right now that are happening post the violence on Tuesday. The Vishwa Hindu Parishad said it will not tolerate any attempts to glorify Aurangzeb. And obviously, as you can assume, politicians from both sides of the aisle have accused each other. The opposition accusing the BJP of not maintaining law and order. Remember, the chief minister is also the home minister, and the BJP basically saying that it is, un-Indian. All of these things that are being said. Fundamentally, we do though have fans of actor Vicky Kaushal who are now standing in his defense. But as the situation stands in Nagpur, the police have assured within a 24-hour window that everything was brought under control. Like I said, a curfew was established and things are peaceful now. Now that things are peaceful, let's examine a couple of things. There is talk about the fact that there are these films that are coming out right now that are actually propagandist in their ideas. They're meant to rake up a certain a certain type of feeling from against different communities on religious lines. Propagandist films, though, are not new. They're not specifically an Indian idea. The US has been doing it for years. I'll give you, in fact, examples of propagandist films that may, in fact, surprise you. Films that were made with the help of the government of the US in order to, elicit certain reactions. Top Gun in 1986, if you didn't know, was produced with direct assistance from the US Navy with the attempt to lead to a recruitment boom. Zero Dark 30, the CIA, officials provided guidance to make Zero Dark 30. Argo in 2012, CIA helped shape the narrative, apparently. American Sniper in 2014 established heroism of the US Navy SEALs but it sort of omitted the border critiques of the Iraq war. Marvel and DC, and of course films like Independence Day and Armageddon sort of build the US government and military as saviors of the world. Like nobody else has the ability to fight aliens if that situation ever comes up. So the US has been building this idea through its pop culture films, which have been watched all over the world for decades. China does it as well, and now we're seeing this theme sort of land in India. But the difference in India is that the lines that are being drawn are internal and not necessarily sort of building only an external idea. It brings us back to the fact that films do influence the way people think. There is a very gray area between based on historic facts and actual historic facts, like in a documentary. So it's that gray area of fact and fiction and cinematic license that these films reside in. And the question to ask is audience members watching the film, because the argument is, in a free speech world which we live in, that you are grown up, you're above 18, you have the ability to understand that this is a film and I shouldn't be reacting to it. And it is based on that ability that you are allowed to vote, that you are allowed to drive, that you are allowed to watch films without censorship. So where are we lacking in that ability, where the film is actually resulting in real world consequences, as has been acknowledged by members of government? Leave me a comment in the comment section if you believe that we need to be more responsible as audience members if we are to protect our right to free speech. Because the more we react badly in this fashion, the less we display our ability to handle information as adults. And really, it's easy to sit around and say nobody should be making films like this, but cinematic license and artistic license allows you to interpret historic facts in a way that you think is interesting. It is in the audience's mind that responsibility needs to arise. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and sign up for our membership.